Hello there and welcome to another episode of Geek Out and Speak Out. My name is Geeks, so I've just taken a minute to try and replenish my voice a little bit. As you can tell, it's a little bit croaky still. But I've had a drink after talking about the Marvels, and so now we're going to move on to my second video, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now, I've been a fan of the DC movies. As you can probably tell, and I think I've mentioned it before, I'm more of a Marvel guy. I do like the Marvel films. Contrary to what I said about the Marvels movie, you probably established that I've probably already established that I am a Marvel fan. But I do like the DC stuff as well. Excuse me. And I think they're a good alternative to what the Marvels have to offer. You know, particularly with the creation of the Snyderverse. With Man of Steel, Batman, and all this other stuff. I think it was a good counterpoint to what Marvel were doing. The only thing that the DC movies lacked was a vision. I'm not talking about the character from the Marvel films, I'm talking about an overall vision. And I think the closest thing they had to it was Zack Snyder, but with his introduction into the DC films and then his exit into the DC films, it all fell into a little bit of a downward spiral. And which is unfortunate, because I thought Zack Snyder was onto something pretty good with what he did with Man of Steel and the extended version of Batman v Superman, because I did enjoy that film, but there was just a lot of stuff that didn't need to be in it. And even the Zack Snyder's version of the Justice League, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I thought it was magnificent, and it's unfortunate that there's not going to be a continuation of that, because I would love to have seen what comes next with all of Darkseid and things like that. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say I even enjoyed the Flash film. You know, with all the controversy around Ezra Miller to one side, I thought he was funny and charming. Again, there was a lot of things that didn't necessarily need to be in that film, but I thought it was a good time travel film, and, you know, special effects were a little bit ropey. Ropey might be an understatement, but you could put it down to stylish choice. I'm a Flash defender because and a Flash apologist, because I actually think that the film was actually really good, and I think it got snubbed mainly because of the controversy around Ezra Miller, and obviously around some of the ropey special effects. I mean, it had Michael Keaton's Batman in it, for goodness sake. I'm not here to talk about the Flash. Okay, I'm not talking about the Flash. I might do that on another day, but I'm here to talk about Aquaman. Now, in a lot of ways, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is quite a pivotal film, because it marks the end of this run of DC movies. That started with Man of Steel and now has ended with Aquaman and Lost Kingdom. Everything in between. So DC are going to pivot now. They're recasting everything, and you know, there's news out there about recasting Supergirl and all this other stuff. So they're doing a major overhaul of their movies, and Aquaman was the last movie of this of that era of DC movies. What can I say about the film itself? I'm going to go straight out and say I actually did quite enjoy this film, and that surprised me, because it being the last, you know, everyone knew it was going to be the last film of that era of DC movies. And, again, much like with Ezra Miller, there's all the controversy around Amber Heard. And I think sometimes the film becomes secondary to what's going on in real life. Unfortunately, I think that is what has... Same thing has happened to Aquaman 2 is what happened with The Flash. And that the real life overshadowed the film itself. And, you know, people have their opinions. Fair enough. You know, whether you're Team Johnny Depp or Team Amber Heard, whatever, I don't really give a damn. All I wanted was a good film, and this film did entertain me, much to my surprise, because I had very, very low expectations. I enjoyed the first Aquaman film. I actually think Jason Momoa is a really, really good leading man, and I think he's very, very funny, and I think he can do the action, he can do the comedy, he can do the all the more subtle and emotional points in the story as well. And I don't think that man has had his just desserts yet, to actually prove how good a quality actor he is. I mean, he was one of the few things I liked about Fast 10. It's Fast 10, not Fast X. I've talked about that before. Let's move on. And he was great in this film. I thoroughly enjoyed him as Arthur Curry in Aquaman 2. And yeah, there was moments when it was a bit cringy. You know, the bits with his baby and changing nappies and being the at-home dad, and that. And there was a few points in the story which didn't make a huge amount of sense. He says he's a single dad. He toasts to being a single parent, and yet he's got Mira there with him, and he's the king of Atlantis, and all this other stuff. So a few little points that didn't really add up to me, which, you know, there was a few issues with making this film and the story anyway, so I can forgive that. So the basic plot of the film is Black Manta is back from his defeat in the first Aquaman film, which I love Black Manta. I thought he looked great. I thought his costume was great, and I enjoyed the actor playing him as well. And it was good to see him back as the main villain in Aquaman 2. And Black Manta comes across an ancient power which he tries to use to get revenge on Atlantis and Aquaman, or Arthur Curry, for killing his father. You know, there's a couple of subplots and things like that, but that's the basic story and the basic plot of the film. And what follows is a very, very fast-paced film. There's not a lot of time to stop and breathe. It's kind of one moment after another, and it's all moves very, very fast. That's one of the things I noticed when I was sat and watched this on Tuesday, was that it moves very, very fast, and there's not a lot of time to stop and think. And it was I think it was designed that way because in the film almost becomes like a buddy cop film, because Arthur Curry he breaks out his brother Orm, played by the great Patrick Wilson. He's a very underrated actor, I might add. I think Patrick Wilson is a great actor, and I've always enjoyed him in everything. Even though I think playing Orm is a bit of an odd choice for him, it becomes almost becomes a buddy cop, and the banter between the brothers, you know, as they progress on their quest to try and defeat Black Manta. And you know, I actually thought that Patrick Wilson and Jason Momoa, their characters had good chemistry. And they kind of push the narrative forward quite effectively. Again, you know, this film, unlike the Marvels, I actually think these characters had something a little bit more interesting to say. They had a good dynamic, and you know, there was some brilliant action. Again, much like the Marvels, there was good special effects. But I think that the moments in between, while yes, the dialogue was a bit hammy, was a bit cheesy, and you know, and they did chew up the scenery a little bit in a lot of the scenes. You know, I thought it actually moved along at a very swift pace, which was a good choice, because I think if you stopped and actually dwelled on some of the moments, I think it could come across as a little bit dull, a little bit boring. So this happened, let's move on to the next moment. So, you know, there wasn't a lot of standing around talking too much. A lot of movement, a lot of flow into the next moment, which I preferred. And that, because I think if they kept stopping the story, and you know, I think they could stand on their own foot, and the film would have tripped over a little bit. I hope that's clear. I hope you kind of make my point across. That it moves quickly. Anyway. So yeah, so the banter between the brothers, it's supposed to be like a buddy cop thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I actually think Jason Momoa, you know, he's the wisecracker, he's the smart mouth. He uses some quite, foul language, and that. Whereas Patrick Wilson's more of the straight man. He's the deadpan, I really enjoyed their chemistry. And you know, this film was not supposed to be taken seriously. I'm still going to compare it to the Marvels, because I watched them very close to each other. I think the Marvels they were taking themselves too seriously, whereas Aquaman, it wasn't supposed to be taken as seriously. You know, I think that there's a clear difference between the two. Aquaman was definitely tonally, you much more of a slapstick, much more of a kind of summer movie buddy cop romp of a film, and I thought it did it quite successfully. And they come to a big Titanic battle at the end, and I'm not going to give you any spoilers because I still want you to go and enjoy this film because it is worth watching, and even just to see the end of that era of DC films. And I think it's been unnecessarily panned, for whatever reason. I'm sure people have their reasons to not enjoy this film. And one of the things to take into account is that Amber Heard's role was severely cut down. She didn't have a huge amount to say and didn't have a huge amount to do in this film. And I thought at one point, actually no, I'm not going to tell you. I want you to go and watch it and enjoy it. But her role was really, really cut down. I think maybe originally she was supposed to be in it more, but with all the controversy outside in the real world, I think they made a creative choice just to reduce her role. But I think ultimately her being in it did affect the reactions to the film. Unfortunate, but these things happen. So on the whole, I actually really enjoyed this film. I was pleasantly surprised. I went in with an open mind and low expectations, which I think is something to think about when you go and watch this film. It's not the magnus opus of DC films. It's not the shining crown on top of the mountain of DC films. I think there has been better ones before, and I'm hoping there's going to be better ones after. But what it did do was it entertained me for 2 hours while watching it. I didn't feel particularly bored watching this. I wasn't checking my phone. I actually sat and I watched the film, and it kept me engaged, which that's all I can ask for a film, really. So as far as giving it a rating is concerned, while it didn't blow my skirt up, as I like to say. It wasn't like, woohoo, this is amazing. It did keep me engaged, and it was fun, and it didn't take itself too seriously, and there was good action, and it was all the things that I wanted from that kind of film. It wasn't Avengers Endgame, but I didn't expect it to be. It wasn't even Zack Snyder's Justice League. I didn't expect it to be. But what I did want was a good film that I enjoyed watching for 2 hours, and that's what this film did. So I'm gonna give it a good 7 out of 10. Controversial, I know, because of all the film essentially flopped and was panned and that, but I actually enjoyed it. And I think if people can get past the hate of Amber Heard and actually see a film for what it actually is, and that's supposed to be 2 hours of entertainment, it does a good job. It really does a good job. And so I think people need to give it a chance. And I'm hoping further down the line, when this whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing is further in the rearview mirror of pop culture, I'm hoping that this film can get a little bit more love. Maybe a year or two down the line when the dust has settled a little bit more. So there we have it. I hope I made my feelings very clear. I'm still very bunged up. I've still got a really bad head cold, but at least I can talk a little bit. And I hope I made myself clear without rambling too much. So Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, go watch it. It's fun. Just can't leave everything else. Drop all the baggage. Don't think about anything else. Just sit back, clear your mind, enjoy the film for what it is, and that's fun. So thank you for sitting through my croaky video. My voice is going even more now, so I shall leave you to it. But thank you for watching. I have got plans for a future video. I'm not going to announce it just yet because I've got a bit of work to do with it. I'm going to leave that with you. Make that of what you will. But I shall see you soon for another episode of Geek Out and Speak Out. My name is Geeks. Thank you for watching.